Hello, it's Cryptolyze, and I hope you are well this Tuesday, 19 September 2023. It is with pleasure that we meet to talk about MATIC, soon to be called Polygon's crypto. So, as usual with this type of video, we're going to dissect it into two parts. A fundamental part, we will come back to what Polygon is, we will come back to its news, which is relatively dense, and then we will attack the technical part to project ourselves in the short, medium, long term on purchase prices, price, sales, and we attack straight away. The Polygon project is a bit of a special project because it is complicated to define because it has evolved enormously. We will say that this is a big strength of Polygon. Polygon historically was a side chain. Finally, they went through Plasma and then an Ethereum side chain to become an Ethereum layer 2. ZK knowledge proof, and which is also becoming globally a structural default protocol for blockchains built on Ethereum, notably with their chain SDK. So we're going to discuss it later. It's a development kit to build their own blockchain. Build, for example, your own blockchain on the Ethereum blockchain. And you'll see that it's a very nice concept. It looks like greatly to the Cosmos SDK, more or less. So we're going to discuss it a little later. But overall, you have to understand that Polygon is a blockchain infrastructure. That's the main thing. That is, they build Legos, functional blocks for developers to build on. While they initially wished to build decentralized applications using Polygon and the Polygon SDK, therefore the Polygon development kit, or to be able to build a new blockchain directly on Polygon. These are things that they have launched recently, which we will discuss at the end of this part. The principle of Polygon, which will be precisely the construction of its layer above Ethereum through its ZK rollup. The principle of Polygon's evolution, because it is one of their great strengths, was to invest massively in the ZK rollup, with in particular the purchase of Hermes and the launch of Plonky 2, which allowed them to win enormously in technology and to advance much more quickly than their competitors, in any case, to make up part of the delay they potentially had. This is one of Polygon's great strengths, is that they are capable of drastically changing their development and evolving directly with the market. As soon as there is a new narrative or a new technology, they are able to directly release an evolution, or in any case, to prepare for the evolution by investing massively, something they have done brilliantly with precisely their principle of ZK knowledge proof. Then we have here Polygon SuperNet. So that was the preparation for me of their blockchain construction development kit, in which they enabled the launch of SuperNets, SuperNets being in fact a mini Polygon network, which is highly configurable, which is interfaced with Polygon or not. It is the choice of the person who launches it directly. So this allows large companies or institutions to create their own blockchain and maintain sovereignty of this blockchain directly. So it's a big advantage. We make the technology available without having the problem of a public blockchain, because there are two things. There is one, the fact of having the public blockchain, which allows us to have the notion of trust and decentralization, and blockchain technology, which allows us to have traceability, protection, and in which we do not necessarily want all this information to be public. So it allows us to have a use, rather, private. They have changed a lot of things on their site. We can still see a lot of changes between the first image that I showed you, which dates from 2021. Here we have 2022, and here we at 2023. We can see that things are still evolving quite a bit with an image search that corresponds to accessibility and their new images that they are building with this notion of Polygon 2, which I have already addressed several times. This involved a rebranding of the MATIC, which will become the POL. Besides, normally it would seem that the POL, we will have to claim it. We don't have any information on it yet. I think we will have information as it goes along. But the principle of this Polygon 2 is to instantiate an infrastructure. Very complete, in which we have Ethereum as a base, we have the ZK knowledge proof of validation between the two, and we will have precisely the proof of stake Polygon, which will be on top. And eventually we will have another new layer we will discuss after there is the CDK here. We will see it then. The principle is as follows. We will have the POL token, which will be used to validate absolutely everything, whether it is the SuperNets, whether it is the Polygon ZK EVM, whether it is the ZK EVM Validium, which is used to validate the data directly. So we really have Paul, who will be at the center of this entire ecosystem. And what is interesting to see is that this ecosystem is not just a project. There are already more than 75% that are developed and implemented. This is really something that they've advanced through procurement of Hermes, through Planky 2, through their ZK EVM. Finally, they are really moving forward at breakneck speed when we look at where they were a year and a half ago and where they are now launching this, which is the representation of the CDK, that is to say the Chain Construction Development Kit. So here we are, really a direct competitor to Cosmos, in which we have even more value because we are a layer 2 of Ethereum in which we can build layers 2 in a chain and use the pole to protect its data, okay? And we have an interoperability layer which is native because we communicate directly through the CDK. So that implies that if I build a blockchain on the Polygon CDK, I have access to all the liquidity of all the chains that are built on top of it. So that is to say, I no longer have liquidity fragmentation. Remember my videos on the notion of interoperability, the difficulty of building that? It's the notion of fragmentation of liquidity. When is it interesting to have $1 million, which is on such and such a blockchain, 200 millions on the other? That's complicated. So at that point, we are obliged to fragment the liquidity, and we have attack vectors, which are much greater, whereas there we will have something which will be common and which will be and more secure through decentralization of Ethereum and ZK proof, which ultimately makes it possible to offer a certain number of advantages, such as, for example, a form of anonymity if it is ever developed in this sense. Finally, we still have quite a few advantages. And so there we have for me. And I've been telling you this for a long time. It's been almost since 2021 where I explained to you that for me, Polygon is a blockchain which will become one of the biggest blockchains that will arrive because they are in the process of instantiating themselves as a protocol by default. And they are so masked with Ethereum that it is possible that in the long term, we no longer necessarily talk about Ethereum for the classic user, but really only about Polygon, because precisely they are in the process of grafting themselves so much above. And I think that we will even see that it will arrive. So a form of layer 3 that would not surprise me from Polygon, who are already in the process of developing that. I think that we will have news on it within a year, knowing the speed of development that they have, and we still have other elements that will arrive on Polygon too, which is a bit like their narrative 2023. Really, 2022 was their ZKVM. There we arrive at the narrative 2023 minus 2024. And certainly in 2024, we're going to have a new narrative on Polygon because they are capable of developing very strongly. They have a lot of cash and incentives to distribute. I think that the next bull run is likely to be relatively fun at the level of Polygon. So we are going to attack the technical part in which we still have quite a few elements because it is a token which has lived a lot, in which we find ourselves with a very large accumulation, bullish acceleration in BC, Arkansas, ST. So we are in a reaccumulation. The ST has taken the liquidity from the buying climax, so we are not in a distribution, but in a reaccumulation. The principle of reaccumulation is to go to make the highest in which we are going to make. A breakout with the sign of weakness to take liquidity, build a large liquidity range, something we currently have, in which we made here a bearish acceleration, which we marked the lowest in June 2022, which is the representation of the Celsius crash. And then we made a new high over that period, which was February 13, 2023. And then we are in a form of retracement where we are right on the money in a substantial block order. So we are working at the level of Polygon, which is relatively strong, and Polygon is still at 0.52 against other blockchains which are already printing lows. Okay, the lowest would be at 0.31 here compared to this lot. We are still relatively far away, although I think that at some point we risk going to retest this low with this, which is happening on macroeconomics, if we do not have a valuation of Polygon until then. So for me, we really have the two breaks, which were very strong. It is here, the SEC, which really marked the really strong bearish break. And then we had the August 21, finally the August 14, which was carried that week, which was mainly driven by the breakout of BTC. So we see that we really have the two breakouts, and that despite that, we arrive in a form of accumulation of accumulation. Okay, so we are rather in something that is structurally strong, but Polygon for me is going to retest here in the zone between 0.4 and potentially 0.3 to strengthen this accumulation phase here, take a little liquidity, and start to rise again. What can we aim for as a target? So for me, the targets, the first will be the 1.7, going to break this high in the sense that we are going to validate a structure which will be a bullish structure with a high, a low, and a new high, which will be above, and therefore necessarily fetch the liquidity which was left during this period at the beginning of 2022, an important period in which we had a lot of liquidity which was trapped before the fall here of Terra Luna. So it would make perfect sense to go and look for that. Then what could we do? We could go and get the following cash. The following liquidity would therefore be the ATH with a new top, which would be carried out at the level of $3, and we could even project ourselves on a wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 in IOTAs to get the 1.618 with a MATIC. A pole, therefore, which would be in the $5. So I have difficulty with the pole. I think I will call MATIC for a very long time, but we would go for the $5 with a big wave 3 or potentially a little more, namely that we are in a market cap, which is a little more 5 billion, and we have 10 billion tokens, so that would take us to a market cap of 50 billion, which is really not surprising generally compared to a bull run. We could even seek additional liquidity. If we have a bull run which does the same with a strong increase in liquidity, we could very well find ourselves at a market cap, which is around 75, 80, 90, why not 100 billion, and therefore that would almost bring us to a token which would fetch targets above $7, $8. So it would be completely consistent, especially given the evolution that we find at the level of Polygon, but on the other hand, we need elements. We need the establishment of a new bull run, the injection of liquidity, which is not problematic compared to the launch of Polygon 2, but in any case, they are off to a good start. As a reminder, Polygon is more than 37.0 decentralized applications. We talk about Ethereum in terms of volume, but there is MATIC in terms of number of applications, which is just extraordinary. We have Solana, which takes care of NFTs, which competes with Ethereum at the NFT level. And we have MATIC at the level of decentralized applications, which competes precisely with Ethereum. So we really have an actor who is massive and who has an ability to adapt, which is just impressive and who we will have to watch. I hope you like this video. If so, I'm sure you will love the video I made on GRT, the crypto of the graph, a truly essential protocol in the evolution. Crypto and different blockchains. I'll put the video here and we'll meet at 7 a.m. for the daily news.